Okay, let's be real for a sec. It feels like everywhere you turn, there's someone telling you you're not productive enough.
Right.
It's like articles and hacks and apps all promising to make you this like superhuman task machine. I don't know about you, but I find it kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So for this deep dive, we're going to cut through all that. We're going deep on rework.
Oh, yeah. Good choice.
It's by Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansen. Have you read it?
I have, yeah. I love it.
What I love about rework is it's practical.
Yeah.
You know, it gets to the point. It's all about action, and it's got this like refreshingly different view on actually getting stuff done.
Yeah, you're right. Rework really shakes things up. So
Yeah.
many of those like old school ideas about productivity out the window. It's
Yeah.
not about like grinding away longer and harder. It's more about being smarter, more intentional with your work.
Totally.
Like actually doing things instead of just, talking about doing them or planning endlessly.
I love that. And they've got this great example in the book about Alaska Airlines. I was like blown away. So instead of just using blueprints for their airport of the future, they went and built a full-scale mock-up in a warehouse.
Oh, yeah. I remember
A
that.
whole airport.
Yeah.
Just to test it out.
It seems crazy, but it's brilliant.
Right. It kind of makes you think, what could we do in our own work if we applied that same thinking?
Well, that's exactly the point they're making. The Alaska Airlines thing is such a great example of how when you work with something tangible, you uncover problems you wouldn't even see on paper.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like, think about it. Imagining a character in a book versus like seeing them in a movie, the real thing.
Yeah.
It just gives you so much more clarity and it gets everyone on the same page so much faster.
Yeah, it's true.
Plus, think about it. Working with a full-scale model, it's got to be way more exciting, way more motivating than staring at a bunch of like boring blueprints, right?
It's a whole different energy.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, in your work, how often do you find yourself stuck in that world of like plans and documents and abstractions?
Oh, all the time. I think we all do. It's easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
But, thinking about that Alaska Airlines example, it really highlights how important that early feedback is and iterating. And that's something you can only really get from something tangible.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And you know what else is interesting? Rework has this set of questions. They call them reasons to quit.
Reasons to quit. Okay, that's interesting. Tell me more about these reasons to quit.
Right. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but they're amazing. These questions, they can cut through all that busy work, all the fluff, and they help you focus on what actually matters.
Okay, I'm listening. Hit me with these questions.
All right, so the first one, it seems basic, but it's so important. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like really, truly ask yourself that.
Yeah.
Is this actually useful? Are you adding value? Or are you just like adding stuff?
Wow. Yeah, I can see how that would be a big shift for a lot of people. I know sometimes I get so caught up in the doing that I forget to ask if it's even worthwhile.
Right.
It's easy to fall into that trap.
Totally. And then kind of building on that, the next question is, what problem are you solving? Like, are you tackling a real problem, or is this just something you think should be done? Sometimes we get so focused on solutions, we forget to, like, properly define the problem.
That's so true.
Yeah. And then, this one is a good one. Is this actually useful? It's simple, but it's powerful. Something could be really cool to work on, but if it's not actually useful in the end, what's the point?
Yeah. I feel like I fall for that sometimes. Like I get drawn to the projects that are shiny and new, even if they're not really, moving my goals forward. It's like the novelty factor gets me.
I totally get it.
What's next?
Okay, so the next one, are you adding value? Are you actually making things better for your customers, your team, even yourself? Or are you just, like, adding complexity?
Oh, that's a good one. Too much of a good thing.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance.
Okay, what's the next reason to quit?
All right, this one is all about impact. Will this change behavior? Think about it. Will this actually make a difference in how people do things?
Yeah.
If it's not going to really impact behavior, it might not be worth the effort.
That's such a good point. It's so easy to get stuck in that busy work that doesn't really move the needle.
Oh, absolutely. And leading on from that, is there an easier way?
Ooh, I like that one.
We often overcomplicate things. We think problems need complex solutions, but sometimes there's a simpler, more streamlined way. Rework calls these judo solutions. They're about like maximum impact with minimum effort.
Judo solutions. I love that. So it's not about working harder. It's about working smarter, finding that leverage.
Exactly.
What's next?
Okay, so this one forces you to really prioritize. It asks, what could you be doing instead? If you're spending time on this task, what are you not doing?
Yeah.
And is that trade-off worth it?
Ooh, that one makes you think. It's like suddenly you see all the possibilities.
Right.
These are great. These
Yeah.
reasons to quit are like a game changer, honestly. I can see anyone who's like feeling overwhelmed or stuck using these to get unstuck. They really make you take a step back. Do you ever use these yourself?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I remember I was working on this project once, and it was like heading down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I've been there.
And I used these questions to completely redirect it. It was
Yeah.
a real turning point for me. It made me realize it's okay to abandon work,
Mhm.
even if you put a lot of time in.
Yeah.
If it's not, serving its purpose anymore, if it's not taking you where you need to go. Sometimes quitting is the smartest thing you can do.
It's true. There's such a stigma around quitting, but sometimes it's the bravest thing and honestly the most productive thing you can do.
It really is. It's all about recognizing when it's time to cut your losses,
Mm.
and move on to something that's more valuable. And speaking of doing more valuable work, let's talk about interruptions.
Ugh, yes.
Man, the
Interruptions.
worst.
Seriously. So think about this. When do you personally do your best work?
Hmm. Probably late at night or really early in the morning when everybody else is asleep, no distractions.
Right, me too. It's
Yeah.
like that's when I can really focus.
Yeah.
And rework talks about this. It's like all those little interruptions, the shoulder taps, the pop-in meetings. They might seem harmless, but they're actually killing our productivity.
They really are. There's a reason for that, too. It's all about task switching. It
Mhm.
just drains our mental energy and our creativity. We need those uninterrupted stretches to get into a flow, to do our best, most innovative work.
It's that alone zone, right? And I don't even mean like physically being alone. It's
Right.
more like cultivating that mental space
Yeah.
where you can truly focus, no distractions. But how do we actually create that? I mean, in a world where, let's face it, our phones are practically glued to us.
It's tough. It's a constant battle. But Rework has some really good advice. Things like blocking off time on your calendar,
Mhm.
actually scheduling uninterrupted time, turning off notifications, like all of them,
Ooh, that's a tough one.
right? And then using things like email instead of instant messaging. Asynchronous communication, they call it.
I like that. So it's all about setting boundaries, right?
Totally.
So I'm curious, what small changes could you make right now to carve out more alone time? It doesn't have to be anything huge. Maybe it's just like putting your phone on Do Not Disturb for a couple of hours every day.
That's a good one.
Or maybe even designating one day a week as a no meeting day.
Ooh, I like that.
Right, anything like that.
Yeah, those are great. Even small things like that can make a big difference. And speaking of productivity killers, we have to talk about the dreaded meeting.
Ugh, yes. Meetings. Rework does not hold back on
They
those.
do not.
And I have to say, I'm with them on this one.
I am too. Meetings can be such a black hole.
It's like all those meetings with no clear agenda, way too many people invited. Just like endless discussions that go nowhere. It's enough to make you pull your hair out. And don't even get me started on the time it takes to, like, switch gears.
Yeah.
Get into meeting mode and then, like, try to get back to what you were doing before you were so rudely interrupted. It's a time suck.
It is. And Rework is so good at highlighting the true cost of all those inefficient meetings.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
imagine this, right? You have a 1-hour meeting, 10 people are invited.
Okay.
On the surface, 1 hour, right? But when you really think about it, that's actually 10 hours of productivity lost.
Oh my gosh, I never thought about it that way.
It's true. And it's probably more like 15 when you factor in like the mental switching costs.
Oh, my mind is blown. I need to rethink my whole meeting strategy. So what's the cure? How do we escape this meeting madness?
Well, the good news is Rework has some really practical solutions for making meetings more efficient, more worthwhile. It's all about like setting boundaries, focusing on outcomes.
Okay, tell me.
So first, strict time limits and like really stick to them.
Okay.
It's so easy for meetings to drag on. But when you have a clear boundary, it forces everyone to be more focused.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then
yeah.
be ruthless about who you invite. Only include people who are absolutely essential.
Right.
Because the more people you have, the more chaotic and like unproductive it gets.
Yeah, that's so true.
And this is a really important one. Make sure you have a super clear agenda.
Okay.
What are the specific problems you're trying to solve?
Yeah.
What decisions need to be made? What actions need to be taken?
Hmm.
When everyone knows what's expected, the meeting is way more likely to be productive and successful.
Those are such good tips. I think I need to be way more strict with my meeting invites.
Yeah.
But I'm realizing now saying no to unnecessary meetings is actually like a gift to everyone.
It is.
So what meeting could you eliminate this week? Or like radically shorten? I don't know, maybe that weekly status update could just be an email. Or like that brainstorming session could be a quick online poll,
Those are great ideas.
right?
Yeah, definitely take a look at your calendar and see where you can cut back. Another thing worth challenging is the whole idea that everything has to be perfect.
Oh, tell me about it. That's a struggle.
Yeah, but rework really tackles that myth of perfection.
Which is so refreshing. It's something like so many of us struggle with, especially in a culture where perfectionism is like prized.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a trap that leads to like procrastination, overthinking, and ultimately not getting anything done. Rework is all about embracing the good enough principle.
Mhm.
It's about like finding that balance between excellence and efficiency.
Good enough. I love that. But it feels kind of counterintuitive, especially in a world where everyone's telling you to like strive for more, be more, do more.
It is a shift, but think about it this way. Striving for perfection, it can slow you down. You end up tweaking and refining and like you never actually get your work out there. Remember those judo solutions we were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
It's that same idea. It's like choosing to take an elevator to the top of a building to get that bird's eye view instead of like climbing Mount Everest.
Right.
You're achieving the same goal, but one's way more efficient.
That's such a good way to think about it. So, where could you apply this good enough principle? What project could you like get moving faster on by focusing on progress over perfection?
That's a good question. It's something to think about for sure. It's all about, finding that balance between delivering high quality work without getting bogged down in like the tiny details that don't really matter in the end. Sometimes done is better than perfect, especially if it means getting feedback sooner.
Totally. I'm all about progress, not perfection. And you know what else helps with that? Momentum. We all know that feeling of being stuck, but when you have momentum, it's like you can conquer anything.
Momentum is key. And rework has some really good advice on how to keep that momentum going. It's all about those quick wins, those little victories that give you a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of quick wins.
They're so important. And, rework uses this really interesting analogy.
Yeah.
They talk about like a restaurant menu.
Okay.
Imagine trying to plan a whole year's worth of menus.
Ugh, that sounds overwhelming.
Right. It would be so daunting, so boring.
Yeah.
But like getting a new dish out there, seeing people enjoy it, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And it's the same with our work. Big long-term goals that can feel really overwhelming, but breaking them down into smaller, more manageable chunks and celebrating those quick wins along the way, that makes all the difference.
Oh, I love that analogy. Okay, so what's one quick win you could aim for, like today or this week? Maybe it's finishing that draft you've been working on, sending that proposal, or even just clearing out your inbox.
Yeah.
Just something small that gives you that sense of accomplishment. It's amazing how much those small things can really impact our energy and focus.
They really do.
Speaking of making impactful decisions, let's talk about quitting. We live in a culture that's all about the hustle, the grind, never giving up. But rework, they have a completely different perspective.
I know. It's so interesting.
They actually see quitting as a superpower.
They do.
I love that. But
Yeah.
it's kind of radical, right?
It is. It's such a different way of thinking about it.
So tell me more about this idea of quitting as a superpower.
Okay, well, think about it. Quitting, it's usually seen as a sign of weakness or failure.
Yeah, for sure.
But rework challenges that.
Mm-hmm.
They say quitting can be really strategic and empowering.
Okay.
It's about recognizing when something's not working, when it's no longer worth the time and energy you're putting into it,
Yeah.
and having the courage to walk away, even if you've already put in a ton of effort.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about being honest with ourselves and making choices that align with our goals.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I sometimes struggle with that, what's it called, the sunk cost fallacy. Like you get so attached to the time and effort you've already put in that you're like hesitant to quit, even when you know it's the right thing to do.
Oh, the sunk cost fallacy. Yeah, it's a real trap.
It is.
But rework has a really good example about this. Imagine you're working on something, and it's taking way longer than you expected. It's draining you, and it's not even that important anymore. So the question is, do you keep pushing, try to salvage something, or do you cut your losses and move on?
Yeah, that's a tough call sometimes. It's like, do you keep throwing good money after bad, or do you just like walk away?
Exactly.
But I'm realizing now that ability to like walk away is actually a really valuable skill.
It is.
It takes courage,
It
and
does.
self-awareness.
Definitely.
So what's one thing you'd encourage our listeners to consider quitting? Maybe it's that project that's just draining them or that client that's like constantly demanding. Or maybe even like a habit that's holding them back.
Those are all great things to consider. Sometimes quitting can be the catalyst for like incredible growth and opportunity.
It's true.
You free up time and energy for things that truly matter. It's about being intentional with how you spend those things.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that are essential, let's talk about sleep.
Oh, sleep. They're like the forbidden pleasure in our like go, go, go culture. But we all know we need it. What does rework say about sleep?
Oh, they're really adamant about it.
Mm.
Like, they completely debunk that whole sleep when you're dead mentality.
I'm so glad they do that. I feel like I almost have to apologize sometimes for prioritizing sleep.
Yeah. It's like it's seen as a weakness.
Yeah.
But it's not about being lazy. It's about taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
your physical and mental health,
Yeah.
so you can be your most productive and creative self.
Right. And there's actually science to back that up, right?
Yeah. Oh, tons. Sleep deprivation has been linked to like decreased creativity, problem solving, even emotional regulations. Like imagine trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach. You're not going to be at your best.
That's a good analogy. And I know, like, I'm definitely not my sharpest or most creative when I'm sleep deprived. I've been guilty of burning the midnight oil.
We all have.
But I have to say, when I actually prioritize sleep, I feel so much better. I'm more focused, more energized.
Yeah, it's a game changer. It's all about like reframing our thinking. We need to view sleep as an investment in our productivity, not a luxury.
I love that. An investment.
It's about making sure we're taking care of ourselves so we can show up as our best selves in our work and in our lives.
Such a good point. It's not selfish. It's actually like an act of self-care that lets you be more productive.
Exactly.
And you know what else can be a real productivity killer? Our own terrible estimations, how long things will actually take.
Oh, don't even get me started. Rework is so funny about that. They basically say, we're all delusional when it comes to estimating time.
We are.
Like, we imagine everything's going to go smoothly, no hiccups, no delays.
Yeah.
But come on, that never happens in real life.
It never does. It's like we all have these rose-colored glasses on when we're planning our projects and our days.
Yeah.
But then reality hits and we're like scrambling to catch up.
It's so true.
I'm thinking about like that quick trip to the grocery store that turns into an hour-long ordeal.
Yeah.
Or that cleaning project that was supposed to take all day and you're like done in 30 minutes. Our estimations are all over the place.
They are. And you know why?
Yeah.
We're focused on the best case scenario. We forget to factor in like the unexpected delays, the distractions, the fact that life is just unpredictable.
Life happens. So what's the solution? How do we get better at this whole estimating thing?
Well, Rework has a really practical suggestion.
Okay.
They recommend breaking things down into smaller, more manageable chunks. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
That's such a good one.
Right. When you break things down, it's so much easier to estimate each step accurately. Instead of trying to predict how long it will take to like write an entire book, you just focus on one chapter or even one page. And you know what else? They have this great tip about using visual prioritization instead of numerical rankings.
Okay, I love visual stuff, so tell me more about that.
So instead of this is task number 1, this is task number 2, you just put the most important thing at the top of your list.
Okay.
And when you finish that, the next thing on the list automatically becomes the most important.
I like that.
It's a simple way to stay focused on the next right step without getting bogged down in a complex system.
It's about simplifying, right? And that's so much of what rework is about. It's like cutting through all the noise and getting to what really matters.
Exactly. And you know what else can help us move forward? Embracing tiny decisions.
Tiny decisions. Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Right. It sounds counterintuitive. But they argue that big decisions, they create inertia.
Yeah.
They're hard to change. And they can make it hard to admit when we're wrong. It's like trying to turn a giant ship around. It takes forever. But small decisions, they're nimble, they're adaptable.
It's like you can change course so much faster when you're in a little speedboat.
Exactly. And that's what Rework wants us to do. Make those small reversible decisions that let you pivot quickly when things aren't working out.
I love that. It makes so much sense. So what big decision could you break down into a series of like smaller, less daunting steps? Maybe it's launching that new product or starting a business or, I don't know, even just like a big life change.
Yeah. All of those things can feel overwhelming, but if you break them down, they become much more manageable.
I think we've covered so much ground in this first part of our rework deep dive.
We have.
We talked about the reasons to quit,
Yeah.
The
Oh, the
Alonzo,
power of good enough.
magic of momentum.
The, like, surprising power of quitting.
Yeah, making those tiny
Yeah,
decisions.
it's been great.
It has. There's so much wisdom packed into this book. I can't wait to dive into even more in the next part of our conversation. All right, welcome back to our rework deep dive. We're exploring all these like counterintuitive strategies for getting things done. We uncovered some good stuff in the first part, but there's so much more. One of the things that really sticks with me is how rework just like challenges all that traditional business thinking. It's like they're saying, forget those complicated plans and hierarchies. Let's just get real and focus on what matters.
Yeah, it's a totally different way of looking at things, and it's so effective. Rework is all about being lean, being agile. It's about being adaptable, responsive, and focused on creating real value.
I love that. So let's get into some more of these like unconventional ideas. One that really stood out to me was their take on planning. They basically say planning is guessing.
And they're right. I mean, who can actually predict the future? The world changes so fast, and those long-term plans, they're usually based on assumptions that are outdated almost as soon as you make them.
It's like trying to navigate a maze blindfolded. You might have a general idea of where you want to go, but you have to be ready to like adjust your course as you go.
That's a great analogy. Rework encourages us to embrace that uncertainty and make decisions based on what we know right now, not on some hypothetical future scenario.
Makes sense. So instead of creating these elaborate 5-year plans, they're suggesting we set shorter term goals, experiment, and iterate along the way.
Exactly. It's about being flexible, responsive to how things are actually changing. Be the speedboat, not the cruise ship. And that kind of leads into another one of my favorite rework concepts, scratching your own itch.
Ooh, yes, scratching your own itch. Tell me more about that. I love the name.
It's such a good idea. It's basically building something that you actually need or want, something that solves a problem you're facing.
I love that. It's about tapping into your own needs, your own passions, and letting that guide your creative process.
Yeah. And when you're actually passionate about the problem you're solving, when you have that personal connection to it, it shows in your work.
Mm.
You're more likely to create something truly innovative and useful, not just for yourself, but for other people too.
I think we often like underestimate the power of our own experiences, you know? We're always looking outward for inspiration, but sometimes the best ideas come from looking inward, like examining our own needs and frustrations.
Totally. Rework talks about software developers who build tools just to make their own lives easier. And those tools often end up being super valuable to others because they come from a genuine need. It's about solving problems you really understand, problems you're invested in.
So what's an itch you're scratching right now? What problem are you facing that you could potentially solve, not just for yourself, but for others too? Maybe it's a process at work that's driving you crazy or a product you use that's super frustrating.
Hmm, that's a good question. I think there's always something to improve, always a way to make things better. And often those solutions we find for ourselves can end up helping other people too.
Totally.
Hmm.
That's the beauty of entrepreneurship, right? Identifying problems and creating solutions, making a difference in the world, even if it's just in your own little corner of it. Speaking of making a difference, Rework has a really interesting perspective on growth. It's not about like chasing endless expansion at all costs.
Yeah, they're not about getting bigger just to be bigger.
Yeah.
It's about growing in a way that's sustainable, meaningful, and aligned with your values.
So important. It's so easy to get caught up in that pressure to like constantly be expanding, scaling. But Rework reminds us that sometimes the best thing you can do for your business and for yourself is to stay focused on what you do best, what truly matters to you.
They have this great phrase, don't be afraid to say no, be selective. Only go after opportunities that really fit with your vision and values.
That's such a hard lesson for entrepreneurs. We're so driven, so ambitious. We want to say yes to everything. But I'm learning that sometimes no is the most powerful word.
It is. It's about being strategic with your choices. Building a business that's not just successful, but sustainable and fulfilling too. You know what else contributes to that? Rethinking how you view the competition.
Okay, now that's interesting. I'm always curious about Rework's like unconventional takes on things. What's their view on competition?
It's so refreshing. Instead of obsessing over what everyone else is doing, they encourage you to focus on your strengths and create something unique.
So it's not about being better than everyone else. It's about being different. Like carving out your own niche, doing your own thing.
Exactly. They say, don't copy, create. Don't try to imitate what's already out there. Find your own voice, your own style.
It's about being authentic, letting your own creativity shine through.
Yeah. And sometimes They even suggest, like, ignoring the competition altogether.
Really? Wow, that's bold.
I know, right? But think about it. When we're too focused on what everyone else is doing, we can lose sight of our own vision, our own strengths. Rework wants us to focus on our game, our customers, our goals. Create something so good, so valuable, so unique, that it doesn't even matter what the competition is doing.
I love that approach. Trusting in yourself and your ability to create something amazing. So, how do we actually shift our mindset away from that comparison trap and focus on creating something truly remarkable?
Well, Rework has some great insights on marketing and promotion too, and they're definitely not traditional. They believe in building a strong reputation through the quality of your work.
Letting the work speak for itself.
Exactly. They call it standing out without standing out.
Standing out without standing out. Okay, tell me more about that. I like it already.
So it's not about like shouting from the rooftops or using all those like attention grabbing tactics. It's about quietly and consistently doing exceptional work that gets noticed and shared organically.
So, it's about being a resource, a source of valuable information and insights, building trust through the quality of your work.
Exactly. They talk about creating content that's genuinely helpful, informative, blog posts, videos, tutorials, anything that provides real value to your audience. And they also emphasize building genuine relationships with your customers, treating them like actual people, not just
I
transactions.
love that. Creating a community around your brand, people who connect with what you do and value the relationship they have with you.
Exactly. It's a much more authentic and sustainable way to build a business. And you know what else is essential for building a successful business? Pricing your work fairly.
Pricing. Okay, let's talk about that. It's something so many entrepreneurs struggle with. What's Rework's take on pricing?
They're very clear. Charge what you're worth. Don't undervalue your time, your skills, your expertise,
And don't be afraid to charge a premium if you're offering real value.
right? Rework actually argues that like low prices can devalue your work and attract the wrong kind of customers, the ones who are just looking for a bargain, not the value you're providing.
It's about finding that balance where you're fairly compensated for your work and your customers feel like they're getting a good deal, a win-win.
Exactly. And you know what else is a win-win? Building a company culture that supports creativity and productivity.
Culture.
Yeah.
I'm so curious about Rework's take on culture. They've got some pretty radical ideas, right?
Oh, they do. They believe in creating a work environment that's relaxed, informal, empowering. They want to move away from that traditional corporate hierarchy and create a flatter structure where everyone has a voice and feels valued.
It's about creating a sense of ownership and accountability where everyone feels like they're making a real contribution. I'm so over those rigid hierarchies that stifle creativity and innovation.
Me too. And Rework is all about hiring people who are passionate about the work, not just filling seats.
It's about finding people who are excited to come to work, who are eager to learn and grow, and who share your vision.
Yeah, build a team of A players who are motivated and engaged.
And once you've got that amazing team, how do you support them? Empower them? What's Rework's secret?
Trust and autonomy. Give your employees the freedom and flexibility to do their best work without micromanaging them or making them jump through hoops.
Micromanagement is the worst. It's like you're sucking the life out of people.
It is. Rework is all about creating a culture where people feel trusted and empowered to make decisions and take ownership of their work. Give them the space they need to thrive.
And that leads us to work-life balance, something we all struggle with, especially in today's always-on world. What's Rework's take on that?
They have a really refreshing perspective. They're all about working to live, not living to work.
Yes. Creating a life you love, that includes work but isn't defined by it. It's about finding that balance that allows you to pursue your passions, spend time with people you care about, and take care of yourself.
Exactly. Set boundaries, take breaks, prioritize your well-being.
Because when you're burnt out, exhausted, you're not doing your best work, and you're definitely not enjoying life.
Exactly. They even suggest working fewer hours and focusing on quality over quantity.
Wow, that's pretty radical.
It is, but it makes sense. When you're well-rested and energized, you can actually get more done in less time.
It's about being intentional with your time and energy and making sure you're living a fulfilling life, both inside and outside of work.
Exactly. So there you have it. That was our whirlwind tour of Rework's insights on building a lean, agile business. One that's not only successful, but also sustainable, fulfilling, and aligned with your values.
Wow, so much good stuff. We talked about embracing uncertainty, scratching our own itches, rethinking growth, building an amazing culture.
Rework makes you think differently about everything.
But the adventure's not over yet. Be sure to join us for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll wrap things up with Rework's advice on leadership, decision-making, and embracing failure as a learning opportunity. Welcome back for the final part of our Rework deep dive. I gotta say, this book has really made me think differently about, well, everything, honestly. Productivity, business, how we approach work.
It really does make you question things, doesn't it? All those assumptions about how things should be done.
Yeah. And it's not just the, practical stuff, it's the whole mindset.
Definitely.
We've already talked about so much. Productivity hacks, building a killer company culture, but there's still more to unpack.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For this last part, I thought it would be cool to dig into what Rework has to say about leadership, decision-making, and that whole idea of embracing failure.
Ooh, those are good ones. I mean,
Yeah.
those are essential for anyone who wants to create a really great work life, fulfilling career.
Right. So let's start with leadership. They have some pretty interesting ideas about what it really means to be a great leader.
Yeah, they do. They definitely challenge the traditional view of leadership,
Yeah.
Like the boss who has all the answers, the top-down approach.
The one with the grand plan.
Exactly.
So what do they say?
Well, one of the big things they emphasize is that leadership isn't about having all the answers.
So it's not about being the smartest person in the room.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
It's more about asking the right questions, creating a culture where everyone's curious, everyone's learning, and it's about empowering others to find the solutions.
So it's about creating that space where everyone feels like they can contribute, like their ideas matter.
Exactly, where everyone feels valued, respected, and they're able to use their unique skills and perspectives. It's a much more collaborative approach.
I like that. It's a big shift from how leadership is usually done, especially in those traditional, hierarchical companies.
It is. And it's funny. Rework actually talks about leaders being humble dictators.
Wait, humble dictators. I don't get it. How can you be both? Those seem like total opposites.
I know, right? It sounds kind of strange, but it's actually a really cool concept.
Okay.
What they mean is it's about finding that balance
Okay.
between being decisive, having a clear direction, a strong vision, but also being open to feedback, being willing to listen to others, and being able to adapt when things change.
So it's not about being a dictator in the, traditional sense.
Right.
It's about being clear and strong in your vision, but also flexible and open to new ideas.
Exactly. It's being strong, but not rigid.
Makes sense.
And they also talk about the importance of leading by example.
Right. Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. They actually say, don't tell people what to do, show them.
Ooh, I like that. So it's about embodying the values and behaviors you want to see.
Yeah. Not just being the boss, but being a role model.
And when it comes to decision making, Rework has a pretty interesting philosophy.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They're all about making decisions quickly and not being afraid to make mistakes, which honestly sounds a little scary.
I know, it can be. But think about it. How often do you get stuck overthinking things, trying to make the perfect decision?
Oh, all the time.
Right. But what Rework argues is inaction can be worse than a wrong decision. When we get stuck in that analysis paralysis, we miss opportunities. We lose momentum.
Yeah, that's happened to me. He spends so much time thinking, and then the opportunity's gone.
It happens. But the good news is decisions are temporary. You can always change your mind later. The key is to make a decision and move forward.
So it's about being okay with not having everything figured out. You can make a decision, see what happens, and adjust.
Exactly. It's about being agile, being adaptable. It's about being okay with experimenting, taking risks, knowing that some things will fail, but you'll always learn something.
That's a great way to look at it. It takes the pressure off, right?
Totally. And sometimes they even say, go with your gut.
Really. So it's not always about the data, the analysis.
Sometimes our intuition knows best. Of course, it's good to gather information, consider your options, but don't discount that gut feeling. Sometimes it's right on.
I think we often dismiss our intuition as being, irrational or too emotional, but it's actually really powerful.
It is. It's that inner wisdom, that feeling of this is the right way to go.
You just know it, even if you can't explain it.
Exactly. Trust yourself. And you know what else Rework encourages us to trust? Our ability to learn from our failures. They have a really healthy view on that, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Failure is just part of the process. They encourage us to, embrace it, learn from it, and move on.
I love how they normalize it. We live in a culture that's so afraid of failure. But Rework reminds us it's not the opposite of success. It's part of the journey. It's how we grow, how we get stronger.
I love that quote. Fail cheaply and move on quickly.
Yes. Don't dwell on it. Don't let it paralyze you. It's all about like extracting the lessons and using them to get better.
So create a culture where it's safe to experiment, to take risks, knowing that not everything's going to work, but you'll always learn something.
And you'll be more resilient because of it.
That's so powerful. It's like it's okay to mess up, to fall down, as long as you get back up.
Exactly. Keep learning, keep growing. And rework also talks about creating a culture of teaching within companies.
Oh, I like that. What do they mean?
It's about encouraging leaders to share their knowledge, their expertise with others, to mentor, to guide.
I think that's one of the best things about leadership. It's like passing the torch, sharing what you've learned, helping others grow.
Yeah, and it creates a ripple effect. Positive change spreads.
And it's not just leaders, right? It's
Yeah.
like we all have something to teach, something to share.
Absolutely.
And that brings me to one of the last rework takeaways that really stuck with me. It's about building for yourself first.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. So what does that mean to you?
To me, it means creating things you'd actually use, things you enjoy, things you believe in.
Because if you're not excited about it, who else will be?
Exactly.
It's about building something you're truly proud of, something that's aligned with your values, your passions. That's how you create something really special.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into rework, I'm feeling like a mix of inspired and ready to take action. This book has just like sparked so many ideas.
It's really a call to action, isn't it? To rethink how we work, how we live.
Totally. We've covered so much. Productivity secrets, leadership principles, embracing failure, building a culture of teaching.
But the conversation doesn't end here. We want to hear from you.
Yeah. What resonated with you? What are you going to put into practice? What assumptions are you going to challenge? What rules are you going to break?
What amazing things you're going to create.
Thank you so much for joining us on this rework deep dive. We hope you found it as valuable and thought-provoking as we have. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep reworking.